So far on this channel, we have looked at chords and what they are. Then we've also looked at how to group those chords into keys and how to recognise what key a song is in by the chords. But how do we get these chords into an order that makes sense? Is it just random? Well, no, because of something called chord function. Hey guys, this is Rob, your online guitar teacher. Now, if you've seen those previous two videos, you'll already know that we label the chords in a key from 1 to 7, depending on which note of the scale they start from. For example, in the key of C, we have C major, D minor, E minor, so that's 1, 2 and 3. 4 is F major, 5 is G major, 6 is A minor, and 7 is B diminished. We also use Roman numerals for this to avoid getting it confused with other numbers that we might be using. Those chords will all work together in a song because they're in the same key, and you can do the same thing with any major scale, just following the same pattern of major and minor chords. Watch my previous video on keys for more information on that. But what I didn't say was that each chord has a certain job depending on where in the scale it is. For example, the 5th chord of a major key is called the dominant chord. This is the one that will want to lead back to the 1st chord. So in the key of C, that's the G major, we'll want to lead back to the C major. So you'll often find the G major followed by a C major towards the end of a progression or towards the end of a section. The 7th chord actually has a lot of notes in common with the 5th chord. In our example key, C major, the 5th chord is G major, G, B and D, and the 7th chord is B diminished, B, D and F. So the 7th chord also has a bit of dominant function. That's actually really useful to know when you're soloing because it means you can use a diminished arpeggio over the 5 chord of whatever key you're in. Actually, dominant function has a lot of implications for soloing, something that I'm going to get into in a future video. So if we take our progression from earlier, we can substitute the 5 chord for the 7 chord. Next, we have the subdominant, which is chord 4. Sub meaning below and dominant being chord 5. This has subdominant function, which leads to chord 5. So chord 4 in C major will be an F major chord. This has the notes F, A and C. We can also use instead the D minor chord, which is chord 2, because this contains the notes D, F and A. So in a chord progression, chord 4 or chord 2 can lead into our dominant chords, chord 5 or chord 7, and then those chords lead into chord 1. But surely this is just really mathematical. Can't we use our ears to tell where these chords are coming from and where they're going to? Why do we need these stupid rules? Well, as with most of music theory, these are not really rules. They're just guidelines. So you can put any bunch of chords together, and if you think it sounds good, it sounds good. But what this does help us with is, say for example, writing a chord progression, and we don't know what chord to come next, we can always use some of these guidelines to go, okay, well, we've got a subdominant chord here, we can then go into a dominant chord. We've got chord 2, that can go into chord 5, and then we can go into chord 1, and it writes itself if you're stuck. But most importantly, if you're soloing over a chord and you know where that chord fits within the progression, what its function is, then you're better prepared to solo over it. This, as I said, I'm going to go into in a video in the future about dominant function and soloing over dominant function chords, because this is something that is really important if you want to expand your soloing. I say important, but like anything, you don't have to learn it. It's just another tool that you can use for your soloing and improvisation. So hopefully that has given you some ideas when it comes to creating chord progressions for songs or soloing over chords. If you like this video, don't forget to hit the like button and share it with all your friends. You can also subscribe if you're not already subscribed and want more videos like these. If you go to my website, chainsawguitartuition.net, you can download a free PDF ebook that's all about setting up your guitar practice routine. And until then, turn up and rock out. So today we're going to be talking about what is a chord. So, for example, this is a C chord, which you probably know, I can see. But what is that? Is that just someone randomly put their fingers there one day and thought it sounded good, time to call it C? People just sitting around randomly putting their fingers on the guitar and going, oh, that's a new chord, I'll call it G. But it turns out, no, that's not how it works. There's a